Sure. Obviously, we saw Dakota in the boot. What can you tell us about how he's doing?
He's doing really well. We expect him to be with us real soon.
What does his absence, how does that limit you and maybe your flexibility and where you maybe want to move those other guards around and try him at things?
It kind of helps because now that he's out, he's got to put other guys in there, and then when he comes back, those other guys will have more experience.
It's a good way to look at it.
It does. Turn a negative into a positive.
Coach, last week we talked to Josh Black, and he was talking about how the QB competition just makes everyone else's competition for their starting positions even more aggressive, even more. It makes them even want to compete even more. What other competitions have you seen in other position groups that you think will shine in the remaining days?
Fantastic question. Now, you're not going to like my answer. This is like the first day of shoulder pads, so really we haven't been competing. It's kind of like mirroring people so they don't start to, because we didn't want to get anybody hurt. So this is the first day that we've had the pads on and the competition has just started. So you ask it a little bit later and I'll have some more detail for you, but right now this has just been the first day out. Sorry.
Dino, the evolution of the offensive line, what can you say about building some depth there for this year?
I think it's going to be good. We're so far so good. We're really happy with some of the young guys. Now they're not mentally everywhere that they need to be, but with the veterans that we got coming back and with the young kids, right now we really like where we're at with those guys. They got to still grow up, the young ones, but we like where we're at.
Aaron Service has played all over the line. What can you say about kind of anchoring him somewhere this season and having him have a season?
Well, it'd be good because he wants to have an opportunity to play in the pros. But as I was telling him, I said, you know what, that's good, and we want you to be at one spot. But his whole value, if he wants to play at the next level, is to be able to play multiple positions. So just like the defensive guys that are really spreading themselves out on special teams, there's a bunch of super seniors that are really spreading themselves out in special teams. Because if you're not a starter in the NFL, you better be a multi-positional backup, or you better be a guy that helps them on special teams.
Coach, I asked the guys this on Friday about spring. They said it felt like it gave them an advantage coming into the camp. They felt like they had to step up from a year before. Have you noticed that where the guys are, especially the younger players, since they had the spring practice, they're picking things up a little quicker as you guys, prepare for this season?
I think the biggest thing, I was talking to some of the super seniors, is that there's guys that have been around here for like 4, 5+ years. And, if you come in and you play 3 years and you redshirt like I think Iffy did, you're only here for 3 years, okay? Or if you got somebody that comes in 3 years and 3 out, you really haven't been here that long. But when you think about some of the guys and how long they've been here, I think that's really settled them down, and the younger guys can go to those guys for guys that have been in 4 spring balls, 4 fall camps or more, and they really know what they're getting into.
Dino, you were among the first coaches to recognize kind of the value of tempo, the benefits of RPO stuff. Now everybody does it. So defenses spend all preseason preparing for it, recruiting for it, scheming for it. How much of the edge has kind of gone away as everybody's kind of tailored themselves to stopping that stuff?
I think the biggest thing is something I've always said. I want to be green and growing, not red and rotten. I can remember when I first went into tempo, and this is a real story. There was a guy on my staff, and he was at an establishment, and I was walking across the establishment floor, and somebody said, "There goes Dino Babers, blah, blah, blah." I don't like to speak to myself in the third term, but he said, all the football that he knows, he's just got his first head coaching job, and he's running that spread stuff, okay? And now that was in 2012. And now we're talking about how everybody runs that spread stuff. The point of the story is this, okay? We're gonna do stuff that is different, and when it's not that different, then we'll do some other stuff. But I think you want to be on the cutting edge, the front side of things, and not on the back end of things, on whether stuff is good or bad. So yeah, we'll still be tempo, and we'll still line up fast and run some plays, but we also want to try to do some new stuff, some stuff people haven't seen us do.
So I don't know if I wrote it or if I thought it, but I would have told you when you got here, I don't know if tempo is going to work here. You're going to get injuries, you're going to get beat up, and for 3 years you made me look like an idiot. Do you still think that's the way to win here, and tempo is still sort of a winning formula at Syracuse?
I think the biggest thing at Syracuse is, and again, I'm answering your question, is not to do what people think you're going to do. That's a huge advantage for people to prepare one way and then you do something else. And if they can figure out what something else is based off of this media conversation, then God bless them.
McKinley Williams, another guy we didn't see out there.
He's just sick.
Okay.
He's just sick. He's not hurt and none of that stuff. He'll be back full speed.
So,
Dino, we got Elijah Wright, a local walk-on. I saw him on the roster spot. What's camp like in August for the walk-on guys?
Head spinning. Those guys we're having our little special newcomers practice right now in the background that you guys are listening to, because we're working with the ones and the twos, and for the first time I've ever said this, the threes, okay? But we want to make sure that not only those threes, but the guys that don't get in with the threes get some time. And so that we have a special practice after the practice. It's short, but it's with those guys so they can get their coaching and they can be focused on, and we can make sure that they're green and growing as well as everybody else on the football team.
Coach, you mentioned threes for the first time. For a while you've been preaching adding depth, building the roster, building the foundation. How do you feel about the foundation that you can have a third unit? Do you feel like you guys have more depth than you had in years past?
The answer to the question is yes, but this is all based off of what happened with the COVID rule by the NC2A. As soon as that rule goes away, it's depth, but then the depth will go away with the rule unless they make some changes and they allow us to bring more people in with initials and things like that, which other coaches are asking for.
So quick follow-up to that. Can you use that to your advantage this year, that added depth, maybe for the younger guys to get some reps that they might not have received before because you didn't have that ability to do so?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes, but also when you talk about some of the other teams, like I know the numbers on the other teams in the ACC, and all the rosters have ballooned. They're huge, huge numbers. So this is the most that we've ever had, but it's also the most that everybody else has ever had as well.
What are your kind of initial impressions of Jason Simmons, what he's bringing at safety?
Really haven't seen him in the hitting stuff yet. Seems like he's picking up the knowledge extremely well. He's been on the football field before, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to him when he gets on pads with the guys at this level.
I saw him get in and I think deflect a pass and set up an interception, a little highlight video you put out. Are you working him at multiple spots? Do you kind of see him?
We need to sit him in a spot, and let's see if he can grow from that spot, because he's kind of behind on the defense compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's not like those guys that actually gone through spring ball and then played during the season with it. So we've got to keep him at one and kind of. Can't tell you that right now. We're going to see.
Sounds good.
Coach, I talked with Taj Harris's mom the other day. She was saying that.
Nice lady.
Yeah, she's a great lady. And she was talking very highly of you, but also how Taj kind of didn't really leave everything on the field last year, at least from her perspective. What do you expect from him this season? Kind of coming back for his senior year and going into sort of a leadership role with that.
The big thing is the leadership. I've seen him out here counseling and encouraging the younger receivers. And then we went in pads today and he caught some balls, and him being the guy he could just catch it and kind of chill out a little bit. I mean, he's catching it and ricochet rabbit, bing, 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 and he's taking it down the field and showing those young guys what practice is supposed to look like and how a dominating receiver practices. So I'm really proud of what he's done opening day, and hopefully he continues to do that.
And then now you're just going into your sixth year here. You've been in 5 training camps. Is there anything about this one that's a little different that you think, would bring you a little edge heading into the season?
I think the biggest thing is I think everybody really, really wants to be out here. All the ones that didn't want to be out here aren't out here, and the ones that are here with a purpose. And if we can stay united, I think things are going to be great.
You've talked about fans coming back this year, and looking forward to that. Was there an experience last year, whether it was coming out of the tunnel, whether it was silence after a touchdown, where you were like, man, this stinks, this is awful?
I came here because of the dome. I mean, you're looking for advantages. You were talking about up-tempo offense earlier. I came here because of the dome. The home experience is an advantage. And, we had no advantage last year. So, and you can say, well, everybody else didn't have an advantage either. Oh, that's great. We love our advantage, and we play to our advantage. And it's going to be exciting to get them back in the stands and for these young men to have an opportunity to play in front of Syracuse fans for the very first time for a major majority of our football team, which is freshmen and redshirt freshmen.
Dino, do you think this team has a chip on their shoulder mentality?
I think that any time that you failed and you get an opportunity to come back and be successful, that you really try to lock in and really focus in on trying to do your best to make that happen.
Last two for Coach, anybody's got decision-making, technique, kind of vision out there for the quarterbacks, just what you've seen from them as they're trying to kind of find their place.
Again, I think, Tommy has an advantage because he's been in the system the longest, and he's out there making the good decisions. Garrett's been coming along. Justin, Dylan, Jacobian, those guys all know what they're doing. So we're bringing them all along, and I think they're all getting better and better. I think Coach Gilbert's doing a really nice job with them, and hopefully it's going to show up in scrimmages and the football field.
How are you attempting to divvy up reps with those guys, seeing as it's a wide open competition?
I need a mathematician. But I'm telling you, we're dividing that stuff up. We're saving some guys' arms. We're still early in the camp, but as we get closer to the game, then those reps are going to get less and less. There's no doubt about it as we start to get closer to the games. But right now, we're just divvying that stuff up.
All right, thanks everybody. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Gals.